It feels like a Saturday, but it's Friday.
It's Friday. Here, I'm almost with you. Hold on.
Sure. How are you coping with the heat?
Oh, it's uh it's lovely. I come from Sonora, so I shouldn't complain that much, but boy, this
Even
is
worse.
warm.
Much worse.
So we're about to start. Here we
Especially
go.
if you come from Sonora.
Welcome back. Welcome back to Living in Mexico. I'm Ana Maria Salazar. Thank you so much for joining us. We're pretty much 3 weeks away, from elections taking place in Mexico. And as you know, it's the largest electoral process in this country. And there has been a lot of concern expressed by different analysts. I consider myself one of those analysts in terms of, is it possible for fair elections and legal elections to take place when there's so much violence in the country? Well, this week, the opposition parties, or the alliance of the opposition's party, presented a document, a report laying out, it's kind of like a security map, or it's a risks map. And in this map, they state, or in this document, Santiago Krill, who's heads the campaign, the presidential campaign for Xochitl Galvez, they stated, or they affirm, that potentially more than 30% of the ballots boxes in Mexico may be compromised due to the security situation in different parts of the country. I mean, and you can see the document, it's public, and they go almost by each municipality in Mexico, and they kind of divide it between orange and red, depending on the gravity of the situation that they have been able to document. The interesting thing about this presentation by Santiago Krill is that they also affirmed that this map should have been produced, documented, and made public by the Federal Electoral Institute based, or the National Electoral Institute, based on a tribunal decision, electoral tribunal decision in 2021. So the INE did not do, according to the alliance, did not do their job as in trying to identify where there is a high likelihood that people will be unable to vote, or if they vote, it will be under cohesion. That's why I really appreciate today's guest, once again, Benito Nacif. You know him well. He was on the Federal Electoral Institute many years ago, and I know we were talking off the air before we started this interview, Benito, of situations that you all had to face when you were on the National Electoral Institute, or the Federal Electoral Institute at the time, and which there was some questions in terms of at what point you have to annul the results of the election due to violence. So I guess that's kind of the fundamental question that I'm asking based on this document. They're already stating that potentially 30%, and I think it's quite high, of the ballot sites are could be compromised. I mean, what does the rules say, Benito? Once again, welcome to Living in Mexico.
Hi, Ana Maria. It's an honor to be on your show. Um, well, what the electoral legislation says about one of the legal causes to ask for the annulment of an election um, is that there are serious irregularities in a significant percentage of polling stations. Whether those
Mhm.
polling stations were not set up on time, or were
Mhm.
not set up according to the rules, with the poll workers previously named by the by the National Electoral Institute,
Mhm.
or because there was violence and polling was at some point aborted or suspended.
Mhm.
These are the kinds of reasons why um, and a polling station, the results of a polling station can be declared invalid. If you, I mean, if a significant percentage of those results at the polling station level are declared invalid, then you have a cause for the annulment of the electoral result, and the election had to be repeated.
Now, there's like different ways of viewing. You can look at this at the nationwide. I mean, it's almost inconceivable to imagine that there would be an invalidation of 20% of the voting sites in Mexico. I mean, it's not impossible, but it's just almost unimaginable at this point. But there could
These rules are open to interpretation. Obviously, it could lead to the annulment of elections at the district level, but not at the national level. I mean, that is something very big. That is a big deal.
No, I was going to say it's hard to figure out how this would work out, because when you look at this document, and I will tweet the document. It's a public document. I mean, when you look at the document, most of the way they interpret violence in all these states, I don't think they're exaggerating the difficulty of voting in a pretty large percentage of the municipalities, for example, in Veracruz, in Sonora, in Chiapas, in Guerrero. I mean, it doesn't seem inconceivable just based on the news every day and the number of people that have been murdered, candidates that have been murdered, or potential candidates. And in an interview that I did with Santiago Krill a couple hours ago, he says that they've documented 35 assassinations. Out of 8 out of 10 have been candidates for mayors, local mayors, and that one can understand, and that that they've documented a lot of violence, kidnapping, attacks on candidates. So I guess as I read through this document very closely, I'm wondering if we're looking at a document which they're basically laying out a paper trail at if they have to ask for the annulment of elections in different parts of the country. So what do you have to prove if you want to assure the annulment of or you try to annul certain results in different parts of the country?
Well, there are two types of cases you can make for the annulment of an election. One is called abstract or general. And in this case, it has to do with the general conditions in which the election was conducted. And the other one is you have to go case by case, polling station after polling station, showing that there were irregularities in each case that merit the annulment of electoral results at the polling station level. And until you get a significant percentage, it could be 20%. I think that is the figure that appears in the law. And if you manage to prove that there were significant irregularities that merit the annulment of elections in 20% of polling stations, well, then you have a case for the annulment of the presidential election.
But that would be unprecedented, right? I mean, it's
Totally,
even hard.
Totally, we've never seen that before. The only case that the most important case was Tabasco in 2001. Perhaps I don't have the date exactly, but the election was the gubernatorial election was annulled because there were irregularities in more than 20% of the polling stations for different reasons. It wasn't an abstract cause. It wasn't. It was the the case was made polling station after polling station, and I think that to make that case in a presidential election, it's
hard.
It's very hard.
Well, we're going to be following closely because at least, what this document does, it does highlight concerns, and not only by the alliance. I have to imagine that the federal government and even Morena and its allies must be concerned in terms of what's going to happen in these municipalities, since there is a percentage of Mexico where the authorities cannot travel to, and I just can't imagine how the electoral authorities are going to be able to take in the ballot boxes or protect the people who are working on election day. So anyway, I'm sure we're going to be talking again very soon. We're still three weeks away. A lot can happen, I think, in 3 weeks. Thank you so much, Benito Nacif. He was formerly on the IFE, Federal Electoral Institute, and I always appreciate when you come and talk to us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me to your show.
Thank you. We're going to go to break. I'm Ana Maria Salazar, and you're listening and watching Living in Mexico. Don't go away. I'll be right back.